So today we're going to start with Heckscher Ohlin model. So this is one step ahead of the Ricardian model. We're going to do what is the meaning of Heckscher Ohlin model and how it is being compared with the Ricardian model in this recording. You remember in Ricardian model, what exactly we did? We just assumed one factor of production, which was labor. Labor was the only factor of production, right? What was the basis of trade there? Because the productivity of labor was different in different countries, this gives rise to the different opportunity cost of the production. So if the opportunity cost of production of some commodity is lesser than the opportunity cost of production of the another commodity in comparison with the other country, then this country will be producing the commodity with a lower opportunity cost, and we say that this country has a comparative advantage. That's what we say, right? So it was the differences in the productivity of the factors, productivity of labor, which was giving rise to the trade. That was in the Ricardian model. So differences in the productivity of the labor. Differences in labor productivity. Differences in labor productivity. What exactly Heckscher Ohlin model did? It said this: no, we're not going to use just one factor. Let us bring some reality to the picture. Any country is not working with just one factor. It has many factors. So let us at least bring one more factor, which is capital. So in this way, Heckscher Ohlin model has brought some reality to the picture. So there is labor, there is capital. And by capital, I mean your physical capital and machines. Physical capital and machines. And who is owning them? In the capitalist industry, sorry, in the capitalist economy, basically it is the private individuals. And firms. They are owning it. In socialist economy, government owns it. In capitalist economy, it was private individuals and the firms, they are owning these capital and they become the capital owners, right? They become the capital owners. And in the socialist economy, it was the government which is owning the capital. We are assuming basically that in the HO model, private individuals are owning. So there is a private ownership of the capital. Private ownership of the capital. So these capital owners, they earn their reward in terms of rent. And these labor, the people who are providing labor services, they are getting wages. These capital owners are earning rent, while those who are providing labor services, they are getting wages, right? But just think about it. You said this, that there are two productive factors, labor and capital. Yes. You said this, that this is also going to bring some reality into the picture, because suppose that if you are producing two goods, let's say you're producing X and you're producing Y. X is like, let's say, steel. Y is like, let's say, maybe food or something, right? So don't you think that steel production is also going to use capital more, right? So steel production is going to be capital intensive. While food production is going to use more labor than the capital, so it will be labor intensive. Now, when I say intensive, so it is using more capital per unit of labor, right? More capital per unit of labor. So in Heckscher Ohlin model, we'll be talking a lot about this capital labor ratio. Then the another reason for the international trade, if you compare it with the Ricardian model, in Ricardian model, it was basically the differences in technology. Because of the technology differences, the productivity of labor in the two countries is differing. And because of that, the opportunity cost for the different products is different, and the country is going to export that commodity which has a lower opportunity cost, I mean, or in which it has a comparative advantage. In HO model, what we are assuming is it is basically the differences in the factor abundance and the differences in the intensity with which you're going to use these factors, which is going to give rise to the trade. It is not that the HO model can, of course, HO model has assumed the technology is same across the countries. It is not that it is actually required to predict the model, but we can actually zero in um, on uh, on this basis that yes, the trade can arise because of the differences in the relative factor abundance only. But yes, I mean, theoretically speaking, HO model is assumed that the technology is constant across the countries, right? There can be some papers, I guess, in which it would have also assumed that, I mean, some extensions where technology could also differ. But if you assume technology to be same, then we can actually zero in on this, that yes, the main factor because of which the trade is arising in the HO model is the differences in the relative factor abundance. So supposedly there are two countries, US and India. US has more capital than labor. India has more labor than capital. So US is a capital abundant nation and India is a labor abundant nation, right? So what will happen is the point that there will be the trade between these two countries. Ultimately, the capital abundant nation is going to export capital intensive good, and the labor abundant nation is going to export the labor intensive good, right? There are four main results of the HO model. One is the HO theorem, other is Stolper-Samuelson theorem, Brzezinski theorem, and factor price equalization theorem. So today I'm just going to introduce you with the HO theorem. This is just the meaning, right? We haven't even gone into details of all this, just the meaning, just to make you familiar with what HO model is. So HO theorem says this, that capital abundant country will be exporting capital intensive good. Labor abundant country will be exporting labor intensive good. So supposedly there are two countries, USA and India, right? US is capital abundant. India is labor abundant, right? Because US is capital abundant, and let's say there are two goods, steel and food. Steel and food. Steel is capital intensive, food is labor intensive. Steel is capital intensive, food is labor intensive, right? Price of steel is PS, price of food is PF. Let's say PS star, PF star. And price of steel in India is PS, price of food in India is PF, right? So what do? We say, boss, before trade, what is happening? US is a capital abundant nation. Yes. It has more capital. Yes. Steel is using more capital. Yes. So relatively, the factor which can produce the capital intensive good is more in US. Yes. So because of the excess supply of the capital, the price of the capital intensive good would be lower in US before trade. In India, India is labor abundant? Yes. Food is labor intensive? Yes. Because of the excess supply of labor, the price of food, which is the labor intensive good, is lower in India. And the price of the scarce factor, or the price of the factor which is a price of the good which is using scarce factor, is higher in India. So before trade, PF is lower and PS is higher. That is before trade. Before trade, PF star is higher and PS star is lower. That's what it is, right? This is all happening before trade. Now, after trade, what happens? When the trade is going to be allowed, then the firms in US, there'll be mostly capital abundant firms in the US, producing mainly capital abundant good. So these firms will be searching for the higher price. And when they search for the higher price, they actually move towards the other country. They will be exporting. They will be exporting steel in search for the higher price. Similarly, Indian firms after trade will be searching for the higher price, and for that they will be going towards US and they will be exporting food. Because in their country, in India, firms which are producing food, they're getting lower prices. So if they export it, they can get the higher price. So that is the pattern of the trade which is coming out. That is the pattern of the trade which is coming out. That is capital abundant nation, which is US, is going to export the capital intensive good, which is steel. While labor abundant nation, which is India, is going to export labor intensive good, which is food. That's the main thing for this. So HO theorem is demonstrating how the differences in the factor endowments can be the basis of the trade, right? Can be one reason why the trade is going to work out. So the main differences between the Ricardian model and HO model is what? One, in Ricardian model, you assume only one factor of production. In HO model, there are two. That's a reality. That is more near to reality. In Ricardian model, the basis of trade is differences in technology. And in HO model, the basis of trade is differences in the relative factor endowments, and the different industries are going to use these factors in different proportions. The another name for the HO model is also factor proportions model. Tomorrow, I'll give you the meaning for the other three results, which is Stolper-Samuelson theorem, Rybczynski theorem, and factor price equalization theorem. Then we will move into detail in Heckscher Ohlin theorem again. Thank you, Beta.